The night was humid, a thick mist rolling in from the bay as the faint orange glow of the city lights shimmered off the water. Tampa, quiet under the weight of the late hour, seemed to breathe in rhythm with the tides. The world felt still, too still, as if it were holding its breath. Jack, a former player with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, stood by the window of his apartment, staring out at the dark waters of the Gulf of Mexico. He had moved here to escape the memories of a career that had left him broken and scarred. The cheers, the fame. It had all seemed so distant now. But something about this city, about the air here, made him uneasy. It wasn't just the reminders of his past. There was something more, something unspoken. The apartment was quiet, save for the occasional hum of a passing car, the rustling of palm trees just outside. But beneath that calm, Jack could feel an unsettling pulse, a strange energy that tugged at him. His fingers gripped the edge of the windowsill, nails digging into the wood. There was something in the air, something waiting. He stepped back from the window, shaking his head. "It's nothing," he told himself, but the unease wouldn't leave. He turned on the TV, the familiar crackling noise of a game broadcast filling the space, but his eyes never focused on the screen. Instead, his gaze drifted to the hallway mirror. It was an odd thing to be drawn to, but something about his reflection seemed off. The dim lighting cast long, distorted shadows across his face, and for a moment he could have sworn he saw a figure standing behind him. Spinning around quickly, his heart racing, there was nothing. Just the empty hallway. Jack exhaled, trying to calm himself. He was alone, far from the crowds and cameras. And yet, he felt the eyes of the past on him. His hand reached to turn off the TV, but as he did, a sound echoed from the hallway, faint but distinct. A footstep, then another, and another. His pulse quickened. "Who's there?" No answer. The footsteps stopped just outside his door, his breath caught in his throat. Slowly, he approached the door, pressing his ear to the wood, straining to hear any sign of movement. Nothing, only the oppressive silence. Then the knock came, soft, almost hesitant, but unmistakable. Jack's heart hammered in his chest. "It's probably nothing," he told himself, but his hands were already shaking as he reached for the handle. He swung the door open quickly, ready to confront whatever was there, but to his surprise, no one stood in the hallway. Just the dim light from the old sconces on the walls, casting long, ghostly shadows on the floor. The air felt colder now. Jack stepped out into the hallway, his footsteps echoing on the tile. He could feel the weight of the silence pressing in on him, and then, from the corner of his eye, he saw it. A shadow, moving, sliding along the wall. It was large, hulking, unnatural. Jack froze, staring at the spot where the shadow had been, but it was gone. The hall was empty. He turned back toward his apartment, but before he could retreat inside, he heard it again, the unmistakable sound of boots dragging across the floor. Heavy, deliberate, as though someone was slowly pacing behind him. He spun around, but the hallway was empty. His stomach twisted. He could feel the presence now, the unmistakable sensation of being watched, hunted. Something was here, in the shadows of this place, something that didn't belong. A low growl reached his ears, and Jack's blood ran cold. The sound came from deep within the apartment building, as though it echoed from the walls themselves. Not an animal, not human. It was something else, a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the air. Jack's eyes darted around the darkened hallway. No one else was there. The building was old, sure, but this felt different, like something from another time, another world. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the far end of the hall. It was tall, dressed in a tattered Buccaneers jersey, the faded red number barely visible beneath the dirt and grime. The man's face was obscured by a helmet, but Jack could see his eyes, dark, hollow, like something long dead. The figure took a step forward, its movements slow and deliberate. The growl came again, this time louder, closer. Jack's breath quickened as he backed into his apartment, slamming the door shut behind him. The knocking resumed, but it wasn't on the door. It was coming from the walls. His mind raced. The sound, the presence. He couldn't escape it. The old Tampa Bay Buccaneers stadium, the place where he had played, had been torn down years ago. But Jack remembered the stories from players who swore they saw things, heard things during late-night practices. Tales of haunted lockers, of ghosts from the past still wearing their jerseys, still playing their game. Suddenly, the lights flickered. The TV screen turned to static. In the reflection, Jack saw something move behind him, a shadow stretching across the floor. It was large, shaped like a man, but as it reached out, it grew, becoming twisted and distorted, like it was made of nothing but darkness. The shadow lunged. Jack screamed, stumbling back, but the room grew colder, the air pressing in on him. The figure in the mirror grinned, its face not human, its eyes burning with rage. It wasn't just a ghost of a lost player. It was a spirit of something far more vengeful. He slammed his hand into the light switch, but it was too late. The darkness had already swallowed him whole. And as the lights died, the last thing he heard was the sound of a football being kicked through the air, a cheer that faded into a blood-curdling scream. The Buccaneers were back, and this time, they weren't leaving.